you're in an occupied United States. The setting that we've chosen within that is this occupied Philadelphia. So this is where North Korea have invaded the United States, and they've set the capital of the occupied United States as Philadelphia. So you operate as an everyman, as an ordinary guy, trying to ignite the revolution within this occupied free roam Philadelphia.
How does this game differ from the first Homefront?
I mean, one of the big things about that, I suppose, is that it's a free roam game. So now Crytek acquired the rights to Homefront. We're kind of going back to our DNA as a company, and so we're kind of going back to those days, if you remember, of like Far Cry and Crisis. So it's very much more like a kind of a sandbox free roam first person shooter, again like set within this occupied Philadelphia, and it's very much about the player kind of living this occupation, living this kind of brutal dystopian game world, and seeing the occupation and really choosing your strategies as to how to ignite the revolution within that. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I mean, basically this kind of setup that we're in this game world is kind of an asymmetric setup. The US civilians have really got nothing, and the KPA have got far superior firepower and drone technology that they use to, observe the population. So really you need to do whatever you can to try and even the odds, and you can do that by scavenging for items, so kind of everyday items like containers and batteries and chemicals, trying to find explosives, and you combine these items in different ways to form your Guerrilla toolkit. And your Guerrilla toolkit could be things like you build a radio controlled car, and then you can use that to kind of scout out maybe an enemy checkpoint in advance, and you can build an improvised explosive device, like place it on the road and blow up a passing convoy. It's really about kind of taking these opportunities and doing whatever you can to try and even the odds against the KPA. And it's very much about subverting KPA technology as well. Later in the game, you get the opportunity to try and subvert the drone technology, take control of drones. So yeah, the kind of the gameplay and the opportunities available kind of evolve over the course of the game. Yeah, you can do multiple missions at the same time. So you use your smartphone as a quest tracker. You can track multiple missions. You can go off and do different things. The game world grows as you kind of progress through the game, so you need to go back and forth between different areas. You can walk seamlessly and travel between different areas. Yeah, it's very much kind of that. It's an evolution, I think, of those games that we kind of worked on in the past, and we're very much kind of pushing the AI side of things, so the civilian AI and the KPA AI, and really kind of building out this occupation, rather than kind of Far Cry, which was the tropical island setting. This is very much, like a city, this and all of the kind of interactions that go along with that, and the level of detail that goes along with that. Yeah, I mean, as you kind of progress through the story and as you acquire new abilities as a character, you can basically get access to areas that were previously inaccessible. That might be because they've unlocked because of the story, or it might be because now I can tackle something that was previously too difficult, or I just didn't have the ability to tackle that before. Maybe that opens up a new area, and the game world kind of grows as a result of that. So by the end of the game, you'll really have access to the full game world at the beginning of the game, which ties into the fiction. Right early on in the game, you're under the full oppression of the KPA. Anyway, it doesn't really you don't have the capability to do half of the things that you can do later on.
You bought Homefront, or like last year. How quickly did you come up with the ideas for Homefront Revolution, and or were you already working on that type of game? You're like, oh, we can make this into Homefront.
We were actually working on Homefront the Revolution with THQ for a while, and it was a similar sort of game. It had similar elements. It had the Guerrilla toolkit, for example, but then back then it was slightly more linear. It was more, I suppose, like what you would remember Crisis 2 to be, for example, where it's a linear kind of story, a linear series of missions. In each of the missions in of themselves was perhaps, you know, slightly kind of bigger play spaces, but it was still that kind of traditional progression of unlocked levels, whereas since we acquired Homefront, we kind of took a step back and we said, actually, what do we really want to do with it? And now we can kind of go back to our DNA and really kind of expand on that and do more of the kind of the free roam world that we're doing now. So it was quite a good opportunity for us.
Okay, and do you have an ETA for Homefront already?
Yeah, it's available next year in 2015.